Hi, my name is Lindsay Hampton. I'm with Learning Focused. At Learning Focused, we work hard to make sure that educators have access to the best content and resources available so that they can continue to focus on what matters most, helping every student be successful. For more ideas about how you can continue to improve your instructional practice, consider following us on Twitter at Learning Focused, or follow me directly at LF_Hampton. We appreciate you taking the time to view our Practices Worth Using video series. We know that the content in these videos will help you as you work to continue to connect those education dots and make learning more powerful and meaningful for every student. When educators think of summarizing, a common practice that comes to mind is the exit ticket. An exit ticket can be a question, a quiz, or asking students for a reflection about what they learned that day. And while an exit ticket, in of itself, is a fine practice, summarizing at the end of the lesson alone does a disservice to our students, as it does not maximize frequent opportunities for them to process what they're learning and to start to move things from working memory into long-term memory. However, when we think about summarizing as being distributed throughout the lesson, we are thinking about planning for purposeful opportunities to let kids write or talk to discuss their learning so as to not only get a better idea of what they've gotten from our lesson so far, but also to catch any misconceptions and clarify any information that is needed and give them a chance to process and retain their new learning even better. This is why distributed summarizing ranks so high on the list of the top research-based learning strategies. In education, anything above a 0.4 is considered to be a good practice, but anything above a 0.6 is considered to be a highly effective practice. Distributed summarizing almost doubles that effect size. When we can purposely think about not only distributed summarizing, but even interconnecting it with other strategies like writing to raise achievement and vocabulary and context, what we create is a multiplier effect. It's a way for students to get the most out of our instruction and really increase their learning and achievement. In a typical lesson, perhaps a daily lesson, a teacher introduces a new topic. They would maybe activate thinking by asking a question. They would provide a lecture or model with a demonstration, and periodically they would call on individual students to check for understanding. Students would then go into the student activity portion of the lesson where they are assigned work such as reading and answering questions. This may be done individually or collaboratively. Teachers would reteach as needed as they circulate around the room, trying to make sure all students are able to move forward. This particular lesson type ends by the teacher doing some type of closure activity and probably assigning homework. This represents that typical structure for a daily lesson plan. When we think about how to incorporate distributed summarizing into a lesson, we need to pay attention to what research says is how we get the most bang for our buck regarding what we are asking our students to be able to remember and retain, and really to start to bring into their understanding of important concepts and skills. A particular piece of research that gives us some important insight about how to give students a greater benefit during learning is called the primacy recency effect. Think about the last book or movie that you saw or read. It may be easier to remember from the beginning as well as the end, but sometimes it's the details in the middle that get a little confusing or are a little hard to remember. This is the basis for primacy recency. What we need to do is really help students pay attention and hold on to what comes in the middle of our learning activity, because often that is the most important part of what we're trying to do with our students. It is our prime time for teaching. The implication here is if students can remember what happens at the beginning and the end of something, then you need to focus in on the middle, especially when that's where you're teaching your concepts and your skills. This is why it's so important to chunk each lesson into shorter segments, with summarizing distributed throughout. We are helping to trick our brains into seeing instruction as multiple beginnings and endings. These frequent stops and starts also help support memory. Our working memories can only hold information temporarily in our mind while we're doing something with it. Think of it as being like a mental post-it note for recording information needed to complete a task. If the amount of information needed to complete the task takes up more space than the post-it note allows, then the execution of that task can suffer. This is why it's important to help students reset their mental sticky notes frequently through the use of distributed summarizing. It is with these ideas in mind that we need to be thinking about how we are going to plan for chunking our lesson and embedding distributed summarizing, as well as other research-based learning strategies in a way that will work best for our kids. Frequent opportunities to summarize and practice really make a tremendous difference in learning new content and be able to recall it days later. This chunking within a single learning activity, as well as across multiple learning activities within a lesson, is the key for improving student learning. And it ensures that we are giving students the best chance possible to really learn and master new content, which can also produce an improvement in behavioral disruptions and even an increase in students' engagement.